Mike Agerbo here with John Beeler. Want to talk now about the coronavirus and a big conference we were supposed to go to. Mobile World Congress happens every year in February. It's like the big smartphone show of the world.
It's like the CES of the mobile world.
Exactly. A lot of the manufacturers there, they go to launch new smartphones and technologies. And unfortunately, with the coronavirus problem we're having globally, over the past few weeks, we saw manufacturers drop out one by one by one. Started off with LG and ZTE dropping out, from their press conferences and for most of the show, and it just kept going and going. The conference kept saying that they're going to go ahead because obviously that's a lot of money to them. I think over 100,000 people go, and the city of Barcelona obviously wanted it to keep going too because I think it was close to $400 to $500 billion in revenue the show brings in to the city.
Half $1 billion.
What did I say?
You said 500 billion.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I have the coronavirus. On the line, we've got a guest. His name is Anshel Sag. He is with More Insights and Strategy. And he is an expert in the mobile space and knows a lot about the Mobile World Congress as well. Thanks for joining us today, Anshel.
Thanks a lot for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
So this is would have been my second conference. I went last year. I found it pretty cool, like just all the different types of mobile devices that were being announced, all the 5G technology. What kind of impact will this have on the industry, do you think, in 2020 now that this is canceled?
I think it's going to have a pretty significant impact. I think it'll impact the smaller companies more than the big ones, because this show is really where a lot of the small companies go to get access to the executives at a lot of these bigger companies. And when I say bigger companies, I mean smartphone vendors, I mean carriers, and I mean the infrastructure companies that sit between both of them, because this is basically the mobile show. But mobile isn't just about phones. It's about the networks and who helps build them and who supplies those components. And everybody's at the show and everybody's meeting with everyone in the ecosystem. And sometimes this show is the only time in the year when all these people are in the same place at the same time. And not having that interconnectivity really hurts the small guys. The big guys, less so. But I can tell you from my own experience that it's very hard to get a lot of these executives to be in the same place at the same time. So some of the consortiums and some of the industry groups will only have their meetings during this week because they know this is the only time they can get all the important people from all the different players in the industry in the same place at the same time.
Well, to your point there, and I know a lot of people in the industry, for them, it's all about the deal making that happens, even outside of the conference as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of deals that are made. The truth is, most of these deals are already in progress, or they haven't even been kicked off. But at one point or another, a deal is either sealed or started at this show. There are other shows over the course of the year, but this is without the doubt the most important one. And if you're covering mobile, there really isn't a more important show.
Do you think this is going to affect the show and shows like this going forward? A lot of people are saying, why do we even need these shows when you can do a lot of these meetings, through Skype or on the phone, video chatting, what have you?
I think there's some validity to that because there is a lot of, communications. A lot of people are figuring out how to do, Zoom chats and a lot of these different forms of telecommunication and collaboration that really haven't existed before. That said, though, I can tell you that a lot of the executives that work for most of these companies, they're not anywhere but there during that week. So a lot of times it's really hard to nail down an executive to meet with because their schedules are ever changing. But when it comes to a specific trade show that's important to the company, they're going to be there. And that's the opportunity to meet with that person, almost guaranteed.
It was interesting, John. You and I were watching this over the past few weeks going, is this thing going to happen or not? And a lot of these companies were pulling out because they were concerned about the safety of not only their employees, but all their customers as well. The conference themselves, they just kept pushing forward saying, it's happening, it's happening. And now that they've canceled it, now it seems they're suddenly concerned about all the safety
Right.
and the welfare of the participants. But before that, you really didn't hear much about that.
Well, the other thing I'm concerned about, and I'm wondering about too, is a lot of people got burned this week when they pulled the plug, because a lot of people, us ourselves included, have non-refundable tickets.
Yes.
And bookings had to be made for Airbnbs and hotels and all this other stuff, not to mention all the stuff that happens around a trade show where they're booking out, hotel rooms for meetings and restaurants for, parties and all that kind of stuff. It's just, people are going to be really reluctant unless the coronavirus is completely gone next cycle, before they're going to want to go all in on this type of thing again.
I just wonder, about the conference organizers themselves. They are going to be out millions of dollars here. This is going to be a huge financial blow. And I think for a lot of companies, they wouldn't be able to withstand that kind of blow financially.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the truth is MWC is the GSMA's biggest show of the year. It's their primary moneymaker. So they obviously wanted to do everything within their power not to cancel the show. But the thing is that the GSMA is effectively run by most of the European operators. They're on the board of the GSMA, and if they make that call, which is what I heard is what was happening, if they make the call, then the GSMA has to abide by it because they're in charge. I think that there's a chance that the GSMA will have a very difficult 2020 because of that. But I have a feeling that they're now they're only now starting to figure out what and how they can mitigate this cancellation, because they need the money. They need, the industry to meet in their forum. And the truth is they do put on a pretty good show, and it's pretty well organized. So no, I don't think really anybody questions that. I think the biggest issue for them has really been that they kind of handled this communication process pretty poorly. And I think that a lot of people were kind of confused by what was going on, and they took a long time to come out with an official statement. For example, I think when the thing got canceled, everybody found out from Bloomberg first, and then the Financial Times, and then everybody got the GSMA notice, which kind of seems a bit backwards.
Well, we are under press credentials as well, and it took a full 24 hours for me to get my email saying that it had been canceled, the official email. I mean, I certainly heard about it elsewhere through other things that I had signed up for, saying, hey, we're pulling out because
it's canceled.
It's canceled. I'm like, oh, well, that would be good to know from the source, so.
Yeah, I actually figured that it was canceled before Bloomberg even made the announcement. I started getting a couple canceled invites. So someone else, I'm not going to name who I was meeting with, but they knew because they already started canceling meetings, and I was like, something's going on. And then 5 minutes later, boom, the Bloomberg thing came out on Twitter.
So do you think now some of these companies might, at least the big, say, handset makers, they're going to stay with having their own events? Like Samsung just had their Unpacked event when they launched their S20 line. It's got to be really expensive for them to be, doing their own show where they bring everybody in for that, and then they have to go to MWC, and then they have another product to launch. It's like, just like kind of how Apple pulled out of everything and just they do their own thing.
Yeah. Well, I think this was probably a good value for a lot of those companies. But to your point earlier, Anshel, it's the small companies that are really going to take this hard, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how a lot of these companies operate, the larger ones at least, a lot of them have insurance for their booths. They have insurance, for example, a lot of these companies have refundable tickets. I have a refundable ticket, so I canceled my Airbnb, minimal penalty to me. But the thing is that I talked to a lot of smaller companies, and they were the ones who really are taking the hit because they can't afford to book refundables. They don't have tons of insurance, and this is their chance to meet with all of the operators and all of the 5G companies. And really, this was going to be the big 5G show of the year. And now it's like, okay, what do we do now? Because the next show is going to be Computex. And that's even up in limbo now because, it's Taiwan, it's across the water from China, and it's a PC centric show, but at the same time, it's only 4 months away, 5 months away, and that's kind of close considering there's most of the factories in China haven't even reopened yet, and a lot of the employees haven't gone back to work, and that means everything has been pushed out at least another 2 to 3 weeks. If you remember, this kind of happened around Chinese New Year, or this started to gain momentum around Chinese New Year. So, like, some people haven't been to work in like a month.
It really has affected, not only the tech industry, but many parts of the economy. And we're still just kind of grappling with how that's going to roll out over the coming year and years. Anshul, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
You need to subscribe to our channel so that we can keep making more great ones.
And if you hit the little bell, you'll get notified when we have a new video up for you.
And if you check out the video version, you get to see special lookouts to the audience right at you.
That's creepy. But subscribe anyway.